All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Energy Immersion. I'm Mia Signs. This is day 2. Very excited because we have a lot going on. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I've asked everybody to show up because we're doing a beautiful energy healing process on your body. And also, I have 2 free prizes to give away, not just one, but 2. So this is very lovely. We had a question in the green room before we started, and I'm going to ask her to, I already got the gist of it, but I'm going to ask her to go ahead and repeat herself, um, or I'll ask her. Galina, so you are asking how come during healings or healing sessions, working with a spiritual healer, etc., why are not healings taking effect or staying? Is a very, so is that the precision of your question? That is the question?
Yes,
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go from here.
yes, Mia. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So the beauty of this is it's really interesting. Hold on, let me mute a couple of people here. I'm not sure. Hold on. Okay, great. So I'm not sure why I can't mute you, Galina, but if you can mute your, perfect, thank you. Okay, guess what, guys? This is the age-old history. And can I see my sister on the line smiling at me again, please? And also, I also like Joanna's face smiling at me too, Joanna. And I love yours too, Darcy. Sorry, I just love it when you guys smile back. It's very, it electrifies the energy. Yes, Heidi, yay. And Kim, all right, everyone. If you can turn on your cameras, please do so. It's part of the requirement as a social learning section. So the reason why this happens, and this is an age-old thing, it's been around since the very healings began. I don't know how many healings. I'm sure they happened with Moses and they happened with, obviously with Jesus. With Jesus, people had the faith that they would be healed. It's a knowing and understanding within ourselves. It's our direct alignment to the divine, to God, creator, source. That's why I do these classes and I teach this work in groups or privately, because when we connect our spiritual awareness, our conscious awakening, our growth, guess what happens? This is where the magic happens. We can't just live an everyday human life and expect miracles to happen. We must do the work. So just like self-love on its own and spirituality on its own, they come together. And we have to do the work in order to be proficient. Yesterday, we spoke briefly on the call about to be proficient, like a basketball player or a ball player, a ballerina, a musician. You do your practice work all the time. You're always doing your work. So ball players sleep with their balls or their bats, or if they're a really great batter, or drummers with their drums. And ballerinas have their shoes and stuff all over. They're immersed. This is why this is the immersion. We immerse ourselves in greatness in order to become great. These are practices that we develop within ourselves. So when Galina asked the question, why don't healings take effect always? Or why do I feel good and then they disappear? It's not that they disappear per se, it's our human conditioning that takes us out of alignment. So if you created, which we learn in a lot of the work that we do in the groups or privately, if you create your ritual for your day, I call it a ritual, call it practices, call it your self-responsibility, call it self-love, whatever you want to call it, it's okay. Just make sure you call it in with the intention that you're growing yourself and you're healing. The healings that I've had on my own body, and I want to share this because this is really important. I started when I was really little. My grandmother and I healed buck teeth. I had totally straight out teeth. When I would bite a sandwich, I would bite through the bottom part. I'd have to pull off the bread and eat that because the bread was left behind. It was like a surface. So my brothers used to call me Bucky Beaver. What did my grandmother and I do? I'm a 3rd generation metaphysical practitioner. She was very powerful. She healed herself before she passed at 89, 30 years before, of breast cancer herself. And so the only other human that I know, that I personally know, that has done that. It's the awareness of who you are and your love and your direct connection to the divine, to God, to creator, source, whatever you call that. It's who you are. It's an awareness of the perfection and the infinite spiritual ability that you are. You are a soul. People don't connect to their soul essence. I do soul work with people because that they don't connect. So when Galena says, this is just like the age-old question, why am I not being healed? You have to change your own mindset too. It's not just your practitioner, your healer, your biofeedback machine. It's your own divine awareness. If you keep telling yourself you're shit, how are you supposed to have a healing? I'm not saying that you're saying that, Galena, but I'm just saying overall, people don't speak congruently who they are, right? When I developed breast cancer and then healed it 4.5 months later, or evidence was healed 4.5 months later, I didn't walk around once I realized I wanted to have a healing, once I talked to God, once I did that initial work and continue. I didn't go around saying, I'm DYING, I'm dying. That reversed out of my awareness, out of who I was, because that would take me back into the throes of going down that waterfall. Do I live or do I die? When you have a healing, it's complete. Here's another example. When I was, before I got married at 18 the first time to somebody who was metaphysical, as often people in certain sects, like religious people, some Jews can only marry Jews, metaphysicians sometimes only marry metaphysicians, that kind of thing. Italians marry Italians, whatever it is, the environmental belief. So I married a man who was metaphysical, and before I married him, fear of some kind set in, and I was in the hospital in like 4 days with massive kidney stones. They were concerned I wasn't going to make it. And so I didn't take the medicine. We went home. We called a practitioner. She began working, but I began working too. And so I passed the kidney stones. I was fine. I got married like 2 or 3 weeks later. We started on our life. And when I began nursing, I would be on the floor nursing and then in classrooms during the day. So when I was doing my shifts on the nursing floor, and I elevated up in my levels as I became a graduate nurse, I would run to the bathroom with bladder infections. And I had bladder infections my entire life because off and on, because when I was really little, I had a child molester, and that's when they started. I had a child molester for 6 years or 5 years if I could push him away. And so I had a lot of internal energy and chaos going on. I had to heal that. I remember being going off into like an empty wing and using the bathroom and having this bad bladder infection. And I didn't go to doctors per se. Yes, I was a nurse. Yes, I did some of that stuff, but I really had a really strong relationship with God. And sometimes I would be in there crying, or it would hurt so bad I'd scream. That's why I went off into another wing. And then I realized that I was holding myself back, that I was already healed. Why? Because I had experienced healings, and then it would come back. So it's our faith in what we do, the talk up here, that allows us to flow forward. If you've not had healings that are fluid, then you may not know or trust what it's like to have a healing and be healed of it. So one day in the bathroom, yes, on the loo, I realized I had been healed. And this was no part of my experience. I wasn't trusting God. Everything shifted in that moment for me, and I never had another one in over 30 years. So the thing is that you have to understand your divinity, your power, your grace. You're an infinite spiritual being. You have a soul within you. Connect to that soul. That's what the deep spiritual immersion work is about, is connecting to your soul. Your soul guides you. None of us, until we are connected to our soul. I didn't realize that until I actually got cancer. Now, I've been a metaphysician, a God girl my whole life. I started talking to God when I was 4, when I would be locked in closets after my mom beat me. And that was my comfort, because my grandmother told me, she didn't know that that stuff was going on, but she told me that God is your true father and mother. And in that, everything happens. We are just your human parents here to support and to love you. So I would have conversations as a little girl. I know you're my father, mother, and mommy scares me, or things like that. And I would have answers come through me. But it was a trust that I built. Is any of us too late at our age now to develop this? No. It's a shift of consciousness. We can change and move things. I've healed my femur when I was skiing at 15 and a half. I broke my femur when I hit a patch of black ice on a black diamond trail. Frightening. It was out this big. We were way up in the boonies. I was on a class trip of other metaphysicians who normally didn't run to the doctors. It was healed in 3 days. In 5 days, I was back playing softball. I had an x-ray that when I came home from school on spring break, and it showed that there had been a crack, of a bus that had been repaired. So I've also healed myself. These are my works, not calling out for support. I did call out for support a lot. I also healed myself of what the doctor told me like 20 years later sounded like a migraine aneurysm in my eyes. I had gotten sick at the end of the school year, same year, end of the school year, and I got lockjaw. My ears started bleeding, which means my brain was bleeding. I had had a huge fight with my boyfriend that day, and I just couldn't stop screaming, because when you have trauma, you do what you see your adults doing, and my mother screamed all the time. So that's how I reacted. After that, I flew home, got home. I remember being, I don't know if it was that next day or the day after, but I remember being in the shower and all of a sudden getting really nauseous and feeling like the plane was going up and everything blacked out for me. It was really scary. I don't talk about this publicly, so I might get a little weepy. I got out of the shower naked, went to my room, laid down, and my mom and my sister came in and they were laughing at me. What are you doing? And I'm like, I can't see. And they thought it was this big joke. So they left, and I kept doing work for myself. All I could stick to was that I was God's perfect child. And I knew that if God was here in the human form, if he was in the human form, I would be reflecting that human form, which is perfection, disease-free. So I hold this in my awareness. I know that it's kind of a high perception until we develop and build that, but this shows you where you can grow in your healing ability and your awareness. And within about 20, 30 minutes, I don't know, I wasn't watching a clock, I couldn't see, silver started to come back. And within a day or so, I could see again. Years later, when I talked to my eye doctor about it, he had said that it sounded like that I had a migraine that had erupted and bursted my pupils or my eyes, and that I shouldn't be seeing today. My mother also had rheumatic fever as a child and lost the ability to walk, and she went blind. The doctors told my grandmother to take her to Florida. They were in Detroit. My grandmother and grandfather packed up their home. They moved to Florida. My mother was put in the warm waters of Miami for, I don't know, I think a year, and she got her walking ability back. But it took, I think, a year and a half for her eyesight to come back. Doctors look in my mother's eyes and they said, you're blind. You shouldn't be able to see. This stuff works. This stuff is who we naturally are. It's our inherent state of being. And yet people don't believe that they can have miracles. We have to change who we are as a human in order to exemplify these. I'm not saying anybody is here, okay, but let me just talk. Being a drug addict would not bring about healing. Why? Because your conscious awareness is not intact. That type of stuff, you have to live a principled life. There are a lot of spiritual people that smoke weed, do ayahuasca. That's to raise the elevation of consciousness. So be aware of because people become afraid, oh my God, I can't have any wine, I can't have this, I can't have that. No, be aware of your limits, of who you are, but always put your conscious awareness in place and open up. So Galena, this is why people struggle with having their healings complete, because they don't believe. They've not had a healing to hold on to that. They bring back the same old energy. When I've talked before about healing myself from cancer, one of the elements that I talked about was that We have to heal the emotional part of that disease. So disease hits us on the physical, emotional, mental, which is a conscious level. You have to heal all of that. That all has to be healed. If it's of a cold or a flu or something like that, you can wipe that out pretty quickly if you're familiar with healing, of elevating yourself, changing your awareness, connecting to the divine, connecting to your own magnificence. So there's a difference between healing something small and healing something big. And there's no difference, right? There's no difference because a healing is a healing. It's complete. It's who you are. It's your divine essence. But it's your awareness. You can bring back, so anybody who is healed of cancer can bring back their cancer. That's because they go out of alignment. I'm going to have to work on my body, my mind, everything for the rest of my life. I talked to, on Thursday, the OBGYN who cleared me of cervical cancer, who said, are you going to be on this protocol for the rest of your life? And I said, well, I guess I might have to. And that's okay. I don't mind watching what I eat, being connected to who I am, listening to myself, raising my conscious awareness. This is the life I've chosen since cancer. Before, I was sort of wobbly, I want to play, I want to do this, I want to do that. Now I know that I am the teacher, I am the person. I've arrived where I am. I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years, but I've arrived where I am, and nobody can shift or alter my awareness of who I am. That's where everyone needs to be. That's the highest spiritual level. Who are you? How do you want to represent yourself to the world? Truly, what do you believe? Get out all that erroneous crap in your head and all those illusions. Stop watching TV if it screws up your mindset. Go to something softer and gentle. Change the music that you listen to if it doesn't bring elation and vibrationally high stuff. I'm not talking about listening to Christian music. I'm talking about, some people get affected by heavy metal music because the words are kind of sad, and some people just listen to the music and are woo and crazy good and can do really well. It's about what we allow in. Just like when I was diagnosed with cancer, was I going to allow in that there was a possibility of death or life? And I chose life. Literally, as you all know, I told you I stood out on my back patio and I had that conversation with God. I asked for a new piece of my soul. I don't think you want me to die. I have amazing work to do. I need your help. I'm calling in my free will. I want a new piece of my soul. I need to heal this. Within 2 days, as I told you guys, the color in my face, probably Eva might have remembered that, because it was only 2 days before the color I started, changed. I looked younger. People are like, what is up with you? Here a week ago, you looked like you were on death's door, and now you're alive. So what do you want to take into your awareness, into your consciousness? Isn't it amazing that we have choice, that we are that powerful? And if somebody is saying, I don't know if this is for me, then what I'd like to say is, meet with me. I'll give you a free session to help you, literally. See if one session will knock it out, will help shift it, because you are amazing. And until, not in an arrogant way, but in a beautifully spiritual, elevated way, claim that. Do you think Jesus walked around thinking, I'm a fuck up, I don't have a house? No, he loved people. He moved around with his posse, his tribe of, disciples. They didn't have a lot of wealth, but they had everything they needed. They had a home. They manifested everything. They had places to sleep. They had food. They had people. Unfortunately, humanity is so dense that he apparently had to die on the cross and get resurrected for humanity to see that this is a possibility. Buddha spent his whole life in the process of growth of who he was. He was one of Jesus's mentors. So there were those many years. I think there were 10 years that Jesus had disappeared, and the belief is that he studied under Buddha. So we are here to change and shift the world, but we have to change and shift our own identity of who we are. We can't shift and change our own identity until we actually look at what is stopping us. I would love to pick some of the people that I know here personally out and ask you questions, but I don't want to point fingers at you and make you feel bad, because it's not about feeling bad. It's about, do you feel enlightened, aware, or do you feel trapped and held under? Ask yourself these questions. This is literally who you are and what you're here to do. Planet Earth is a beautiful playground for us. It's our place to play. It's our soul's area to experience things that we can't experience in our soul state. Or if we incarnated into a higher conscious being, we obviously are not having sex there. We're not being sensual about oranges or chocolate or things like that. This is the place for body, mind, and spirit, the only place for it to be this way. It's called our playground, and yet it's also a very dense planet because it's also one of the most magnificent planets with resources. But look, guys, you had a choice to incarnate here. Your soul wanted to come here, especially in this time. This is the most, in our human history, we're looking at 2020 and beyond as something that has affected the whole entire world for almost a year, right? Our whole world has been on lockdown and on hold. It's brilliant that we can shift out of that. So many people are very upset and hurt and fight about politics. What do you want to do? I'm very quiet about not talking about politics on my page or even getting into conversations. Sometimes I tell my husband, not going to go there with you right now. I don't disagree with you, but I'm not going to have my mental state. I have people that need me. Be quiet. I mean, literally, if I ask him to stop and he won't, then I'll say, be quiet. I can't have this right now. I demand that people in my energy source, and they're not always peaceful. Oh boy, people that know me know that sometimes things come in to disrupt me too. But I keep my world, Mia's world. I'm my world. Eva, my little sissy, she's her world. Our worlds bump into each other. Hello, I love you. You know, Joanne up there, she's a buddy too. Our worlds bump in together, you know, and isn't that lovely? We create our own worlds and we connect together. So don't allow people to remove who you want to be and who you are. I used to think that I could take care of the entire family, friends, everything emotionally, even money-wise. And I've shifted and changed that. Why? Because it was depleting me. I have a purpose, and my purpose was being depleted because I would cater to others without getting fed or nurtured. So it may sound arrogant, vain, non-humble, but I am all about Mia now. Why? Because when I'm elevated, I can share what I know with everybody else in peace and harmony, and in a space that allows me to stand here and say what I have to say, and to actually answer people with a conscious awareness instead of an emotional upset. If somebody asked me a question here that would normally upset humanity, how do you think I would answer? I would probably answer in the greatest, most loving way that I could, right? Because that's the practice of how I've created myself. When I was healing from this cancer, I co-created it with God, literally, to have my tumors disappear out of my body. When I was interviewing doctors and stuff for health and beauty hacks, one of the doctors, Dr. Nasha Winters, who wrote The Metabolic Approach to Cancer, she told me off air, she said, Mia, because she didn't even say this, I didn't even know she had cervical cancer. She said, I had cervical cancer and I healed it through this process. And this is a doctor who teaches other doctors now how to heal through food. I'm talking about an MD, you know, oncologist. And I said, well, what happened to your tumors? And she said, they're actually still there, but they don't work. I'm cancer-free. I've been cancer-free for 10 years. I get checked twice a year. And I said to her, okay. I said, but I co-created mine to disappear. And then when I had that MRI, what happened? They were 85% gone. 2 of them were completely gone. The 12-inch centimeter one was down to 3 centimeters. It retracted out of my armpit. It retracted out of the pectoral muscle. Create what you want. Literally, this is why in the dream, believe, create process, I tell you, that's one of the things you guys can get in the treasure trove. We have the ability to create our life. I was 45, well, 44 in 2008 when the doctor said, get your affairs in order. You have less than 2 years to live. Your organs are closing. And in that time, within a month, I had a healing where I got out of the wheelchair because I'd been hit on the head at Target with boxes that put me in a wheelchair for 3 years. And I walked with a cane in the house, a chair outside. I was asleep mostly 20 hours a day. I only had short spans with my kids. I couldn't move. So in that moment, I heard a message on my birthday, 2000, August 14th, 2008, that said, you've been unhappy your whole life. What would it be like to be happy? And that started this process into the life that I live today. That started my wellness because I realized I don't know what I want. So I took the 5 pillars: spirituality, home, relationship, work, and body. And I envisioned what it would be. I'm talking about bigger, but create a movie in your head on this stuff. Make it big, not ridiculous, but make it big. I wanted to be, I heard a message that said, you're the white Oprah when I came into this work. And for me, that was spreading messages, And it was funny because at the time I thought I was Hispanic blood. And then 2 years ago, I had my DNA that said that my daddy's not my daddy, that I'm a white girl. And that was kind of hard for somebody of color to re-identify with, with another, like, you are not, Mexican, sorry. So we keep recreating and recreating and recreating. But isn't that funny that the word, you're the white Oprah, came through? Because I'm like, I'm not white, And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, creator knew more than me, right? So we go with it and we just move. Who cares that I'm not Hispanic? I had a fucking, amazing relationship with my daddy. He's always going to be my daddy, right? We co-create with the universe our life, expand it out. I guarantee you within a year or 2 or 5, you're going to do that process again and you're going to re-expand who you are. It's about always growing. If you're not growing, guess what you're doing, everybody? You're dying. So it's about the growth, the individual growth. So I love Galena's question because this has spurred this talk today, literally, which is the foundation of who we are on this spiritual energy immersion. As we elevate to our greatness, we can create great things. I've talked a lot about manifesting with people. Many of you have heard that I manifest houses like that. You can too with anything. And it's not because me is magical. Well, I am. But it's not because of that. It's because I've done the work to get to the point where I can see clearly and listen to God where to go, or the divine, or creator, or source. Remember, it's a word, the energy source that we feel of love. And so this is what I ask you to do, is to get to know yourself, because if it's not now, then when? And not to scare everybody, but the clock is ticking. That's what I realized. I'm 57 years old. I declared that in 2021, I'm not going to talk about my age anymore. So because I never did until I started dating 10 years ago, I didn't know how old I was in 46, or when I was 46, when I left my husband, I didn't know, how old I was. I thought I was in my, early 30s still. So, because I don't record ages, and now I've been recording ages and it's going to stop. So guys, you can create whatever you want. What does your soul want you to do? This is why the work in the treasure trove is so valuable. The mirror work actually connects us to our soul. People say the eyes are the windows to the soul. So if you're not looking at yourself and saying, I love you, or I love myself, and to vibrationally feel it, to connect like that, how are you going to break through the fears and the terrors? I had fears and terrors. I looked at myself in 2008 and I said, and I can't remember the exact year, but I was 24, almost 25. I looked in the mirror to start to heal myself, to break the energy from my mother of that life. And I said, I love you. And immediately I started crying hysterically like a broken little child, saying, no, I hate you. I don't believe you. And then I started soothing myself. And I thought, you're weird, girl, stop this. So then I asked, why am I doing this? And I heard, you asked me to help you. So because I asked if I'm loved, show me how to heal myself. Because remember, I was more holistic. So I didn't go to therapy and I didn't do this. I have done therapy. And that's another thing. How many years are people going to do therapy instead of shifting it into looking inside of themselves, right? Therapy's great, but make sure you have somebody that can support you on a spiritual level if that's your journey you're on. I had a spiritual therapist who elevated me to where I am today to teach because she worked with the soul essence of who I was. We did past life stuff, we did all sorts of stuff. It's your journey. What do you want? When I ask you, what do you want? I play a game with people. What do you want? And they're like, slow down. I'm like, no. So I say, what do you want? I want you guys to write down. I'm going to do this. Write this down. Everything, each time I say, what do you want? Write down, change it. You want something else. We're getting to the bottom line. Sometimes it takes 5. Sometimes you'll have your aha moment. Like, oh, I've had older women say, I want sex. They finally scream that at me because that's really what their desire in their heart wants. All right, so let's play the what do you want game. What do you want? What do you want? Gotta work faster. What do you want? Because remember, we can't think about it. If we think about it, it's not inspirational. What do you want? What do you want? Breathe into it. What do you want? What do you want? The cameras that are on, the first time I see a aha, let me know, okay? Put your hand up. What do you want? 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 Okay, no ahas yet. What do you want? Okay, Darcy, was that an aha or was that a runaway?
Both. It was both.
What was your aha?
Well, I thought, when you said this, I thought, oh, well, no, I know what I want. I'm clear of what I want, but I thought, well, why don't I just take on that I don't know what I want, and why don't I just play with that? And then you said the word sex, so I'll just say, because I'm like, okay, all right, what do you want? Sex. And then you said, what do you want? And it's just, it kept doing that, and I got down. I want to feel.
Beautiful.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
I just want to feel. And it's interesting because the work that I've been doing here lately is about trying to feel my emotions, because apparently from an outside perspective that I'm not feeling my emotions, and I'm thinking, yes, I feel my emotions. I do feel my emotions, but so that's why I was kind of like, oh man, the face that I made, because when we kept doing that, I thought, well, it went from feeling to connection to deepness to depth to intimacy, back to depth, and then again it went back to feeling. So it's just like, I just want to feel. And so it's kind of a...
Thank you for saying that, because the feeling, that's our human essence. Feelings are emotion. Emotions are love. People don't realize that this work is so vital for your souls, guys, because if emotions are love, but wait a minute, I'm angry, I'm mad. Keep your thing on, Darcy. Unmute yourself. I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. Great. I'm glad you feel that. What's on the other side? Happiness, joy, peace, love. Everything, emotions are love. We go back to love. So in this searching, Darcy and everyone, in the searching of it, I want deeper emotional connection. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like when I was first starting on my healing journey. Oh my God, my mother, crying for an hour and a half because my mother was awfully mean when I was 24 years old. We had a fight at my sister's wedding. not at it, afterwards. She had taken my father's diamond ring that he left me on his deathbed, and she was wearing it to her third husband, to the man after my daddy, as her wedding ring. And I'd asked her always. At this point, I was 24 years old. I had been married since I was 18. I had a more expensive house than she'd ever have and more money coming in. And she said, no, you're not mature enough. You're going to sell it. But it was her selfish way of keeping it. Turns out that she left my diamond from my daddy to my sister and put in the will. And I got the ring that my dad bought her, which I figured I'd get both of them. But none of the rings were ever found. They were lost. So, it doesn't matter. What's the emotional state? I lost my mother at that time in my life. I pushed her away to heal. And then I brought her back to love her, to redefine my relationship with her. It was kind of a tricky thing. So Darcy, we have to dig deep. Heidi, we have to dig deep. Kim, we have to dig deep. Eva, Metri, Mila, you almost threw me with Lucy up there. Joanne, and all you that don't have cameras on. Cheryl, Joyce, Jennings, Galena, Anna, Philippa, Oksana, Ursel, Emily. We have to feel our feelings. People don't feel their feelings because it's egotistical, it's vain. Guess what? If you don't feel your feelings, you're messed up. That's the mean way of saying it. And the loving way to say it is, if you don't feel your feelings, you don't know what's on the other side. You don't know the depths of love. Okay? I've been on a search of love my whole life. That's why I'm happy with my life, even though it was effed up as a kid, because I called that in. I called in my crazy effing mother, who I love. I wasn't always crazy about her as far as liking her, but I always loved her. I know she always loved me. I called in this confusion, this chaos, so that I could grow to where I am. So look at the gifts of what you've called in. Mila, we're going to talk in a minute. Look at the gifts from which you call in. What did you ask for? What's your soul asking you to do? There's one of my clients on the line right here, Metri. She's starting a clothing. She was born in India, and she came here in college. Is that right, Metri?
Yeah.
And she's starting a business with artwork from India on scarves. I mean, it's perfect for her. She called in to be born in India. And here's a way in which why. She has legitimacy of everything to create this business going forward, which will, I'm sure, change the world in the way that she relates to the world that way. So look at what you have, whether you like it or don't have it. Same with you, Darcy. Look at your experience, right? You went through, you've gone through a great experience. You've been a burlesque dancer. You've done all sorts of things. These are ways in which we ask ourselves to feel, to stay connected. This is all our journeys. I'm going to also put you back on mute, guys, you two. And then Mila, are you okay? Do you want to talk now? Do you want to ask something? Is it down below your little?
Okay. It's not my laptop. I don't know how this works. I usually use the phone. Well, I had a revelation because at first I was like, I want to connect to my higher self. I want to be of service. I want to be healthy. And then all of a sudden it said, be good at something. And then I just realized, because I've heard my whole life that I'm nothing. And the same with that I trust myself, my instinct, and because I'm so indecisive, I'm just screaming at God, like, please tell me what to do. I just don't know what to do. And then I think, like, I don't know anything. So then it comes down to, I need to love myself.
Good.
So
I saw you crying there, and I'm like, what was that about? Which is good. Beautiful. See, it takes these moments of awareness. Crying is not a bad thing. It's love. What's on the other side? She loves herself. It's not a bad thing. It's getting all the earthly stuff off, all our environmental
Yeah.
stuff off that was put upon us by others, literally. I'll tell it again, how I'm always teaching, how I've told you guys before. You were born into this world. We get amnesia as we come out of the mama's body. Literally, it's just a traumatic experience.
Right.
And our soul forgets what the purpose is, or we do not, we override our soul. So we spend our whole life trying to figure out what our soul purpose is. The majority of the population never even gets there. So they recycle back here, and they recycle back here, and they recycle back here. You know, I'm not saying don't evolve, don't grow, don't be the most magnificent and try to complete your journey here. You can always come back if you want, or you don't have to. But it's your choice, yes.
Because so I'm like a swing. So yesterday, super day, I woke up, aha moment. Like the day before, I was like, why did I have to be married to a narcissist for 24 years and just take care of a special needs child? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, I threw away my life. And then the next morning, because I wrote it all down, my soul probably gave me the answer when I woke up. And I was like, oh, I have to be grateful because Alex was my greatest teacher. Because of him and because of my son, Alexander, I basically dove into everything spiritual and occult to find answers. And because of that, I'm starting to remember who I really am, which is all our soul purpose. So all of a sudden I was like, okay, so I'm grateful. But when you just said like, well, you just have to love your life. Well, I haven't. So now that conditioning of so many years with all the gaslighting and the manipulation and dealing with a special need child who doesn't speak is not a nice life, you know, and teenagers who are just doing terrible things and like you know what it is to have kids. So I'm like, okay, I need to shed that. I need to get rid of that. I need to get past. I need to let go of all the trauma and the stuck emotions, and that's what I'm in, and that's why I'm doing this course. Like I need to shed that. And I picked up Reiki again because all of a sudden I was thinking, I don't know what to do. And then I was brushing my teeth and I was like, what about Reiki? You did Reiki 1 and 2. Okay, it was years ago, but you were attuned. You can still do it.
Yes, you can. Now, you've had a rough life. You were chosen as a trophy wife, right?
Oh, yeah.
Life. And your son has, he's autistic and doesn't speak. There's a specific reason that you chose this life and chose that son and this experience. Dive into that and grow from there, because your gifts come from your woundings, right? Your gifts come from your woundings, your joy. When I say love your life, I don't mean love all the effed up stuff. Value who you are, that you have a soul contract, you have a soul. You came into this experience to live a specific thing. I believe that I came into this moment in time to teach love, a lost art, one that has never been successful universally. And when I shifted 12 years ago into this life experience after that other healing out of the wheelchair, I said, if I die, allow my work to be so that I can pick it up when I come back. Now I say, it's going to be complete, literally. Now, in this lifetime, I'll come back if I need to do something else. But yeah. I am, and I never thought I could say this, I am actually living my life purpose. So that's why I say, understand who you guys are. Find that life purpose. Allow the woundings to help you heal. Allow the woundings to accelerate your growth. You don't have to love the fact that you have a narcissistic husband, but you can love and recognize that you asked for this experience. Yeah, it was dang tough, but let's see where I'm going to go from here. It's always about let's grow, right? Just like the healings. Let's grow. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Let's move. Let's create. So it's not about the depression, the desperation, anything like that from the past, right? It's about loving where you are now, appreciating it.
I do.
And moving forward. Okay, good. All right, guys, we only have 10 minutes left. Is there any questions that you guys need answered at the moment or would like to before we go on to anything else? Because this is really big, deep stuff. We're talking about a full-on total transformation into love, right? Love is divine. And so I use the word for God as love. I call God love all the time. So love is where you want to be, what you want to experience, what you want to gift the world. Joanne and I have a program that we're creating. Joanne is Indigenous Dene to the Northern Canadian Territory, and it's called Unconditional Love. Why? Because we want to teach people unconditional love. This is how you find it, through this kind of thing. Is that correct, Joanne? I actually tried to unmute you, but I couldn't. So it's about, where do you want to go? I've seen Joanne's face at most of my stuff this entire year because she wanted to learn from me something, right? Mm-hmm. And then she started referring people to me, and I talked to them on Messenger, or they'd pop into the Self-Love Revolution. One of the prayers that she put out to the universe matches one of the prayers that I put out to the universe, and they intertwined like a gorgeous DNA dance, and it's coming to fruition. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, she asked for somebody to come in and help with the caribou, help with things. 3 years ago, I think that that's when the pipeline was, 3 years ago, not 2 years ago. The Lakotas asked me to come support the children and the mothers that were not on the front lines with love, teaching them this and working, making sure they were okay. It got settled like a week before I was supposed to go. And so that prayer of helping Indigenous and loving people didn't just go away. It went back up into the universe to be co-created with Joanne. So we co-create the unbelievable, literally the unbelievable. We're going, she and I have something planned all for next year together that we're going to be doing. 2 different programs, 2 different times of year is what I'm saying. So we're creating something in the universe to support ones that we love, that we want to connect to. So I ask you, what do you want to create in your experience? It's as easy as clearing and opening your heart, filling your heart with energy of love. But you have to include your life. You have to include your wounds. You have to include your healing. You have to include your grace. Mm-hmm. We have to be congruent. We can't hide away with anything that we're ashamed of. We have to get past it. Things are super easy to get past when there's love and gentleness. That's how we communicate. So it's really powerful to get clear on who you are. So I'm not sure. I didn't give any homework yesterday, did I? I forgot if I did. Okay, you guys have a project this week. One of it is, and I'm going to give it to you today, it's go to the treasure trove. If you're not signed up for the treasure trove, sign up for the treasure trove. In there, you're going to download the free book, Mirror, Mirror, or you can read it online. I think you'll be given credentials. If you don't get your login credentials, please write me right away so that I can have my assistant look up. We're on a 5-hour time difference, so please do that. And then I'll get them to you. Remember to check your spam. So that book's only 38 pages. It's also sold on Amazon, and it's like 50 pages because it just had to be put more in a professional book form. But it's gorgeous. It's very powerful. It's my journey, teaching tools in there. The inner child meditation work is in there. The mirror work is in there. There's a short self-love video series, 5 to 7 minutes for 3 of them, that'll explain the dream, believe, create, which is the homework, the mirror work, and the inner child. So right now your project is the dream, believe, create. Information of the dream, believe, create is in that ebook. It's also in that 3-part self-love series. It's number 1 is the one about creating a life that loves you back. And then, if that's not clear enough, guys, let me know. So really the dream, believe, create is we're taking spirituality, body, home, family, and work. And you redevelop what you want in those 5 areas. When I first did this, I looked at spirituality. I knew I was on my spiritual path, but I did want to become a teacher and a lecturer like my grandma. And so that's where I grew into. On my relationship, I knew that my husband was not my husband anymore. I felt like he was dead and it was killing me. and I needed a different experience. And so that was immediately severed. It was strange. After 27 years, I woke up one day, I knew clearly. And the next day, it was, unfortunately, it was after our 27th anniversary. I knew I was going to do this, but the next day I asked him if he would move out of our bedroom. And my life changed and shifted. So we recreate what we wanted. I could see who was coming in down the road, and he looks more like my husband today. The energy of the spiritual that my husband supports me with, you know. So work, I recreated into who I am today. And part of that was visions. I heard, you're the white Oprah Winfrey, messenger of messages, right? So I just went with not to be on TV, which, yeah, I'd like that. We'd like to do that. I'd love to have a talk show spot, a spiritual talk show spot, but it's about all the online shows that I give, bringing people messages, not my own, but messages that support the work that I do. So create who and what you want. I knew that my love for my children was solid. I always saw them as souls and that they were God's children. It was my gift to be able to raise them. And I believe that that connection all the time has served them very well. And so you go through your stuff and you look at it, you examine it, you spread it out, you grow it. You can't expand as a human being without doing this, because we don't know what we don't know until we know it. And we're not going to know it until we take the time to actually examine it. So because this is such a luscious topic and this is so valuable, I am going to say that this group here, this group is going to be offered my high-end program, but at like a quarter of what the cost is. And I'll talk more about that, the spiritual self-love immersion another time. But I want you guys to understand that you have support, right? When I say Milu's in that group, and I think Darcy's coming in, Eva's coming in. I have you in, Darcy. I'll talk to some of you about it later. So this is a place for you to grow and expand who you are, right? Unfortunately, we are on a money planet, so we do charge for things, right? And that's the hardship. But this is why I love these 5-day classes, because I get to be with you. We get to work and co-create together. And this is what community is. We are a community. So if you're not in the Self-Love Revolution group, please join that group on Facebook. That's mine. I think there's about 900 people in there or more. It started out as a Rainbow Heart Classroom, which the Hopi Indians said that there will be a rainbow tribe of humanity to bring peace across the world. And so with that and the stuff about love with the gender stuff happening years ago, I just decided we are a no bias of anything group. We just love, right? Our mission is to love. So that's why it was first called Rainbow Heart Classroom. And instead of calling it Love Revolution, like my books and all of that, it's about self and our connection to spirit. So that's why it's Self-Love Revolution. So I put things through that, funnel things through that. I am going to have people speaking in their weekly, other teachers, because I believe that to grow on a university level of who we are, we need other teachers, not just me, right? So, but when you do work with me on these classes, do focus in on this work, because I am also a $500 an hour coach, and my programs are $9,000, or actually now only do a year, they're $18,000 a year. So please get me when you can. Okay, that's my point. Get me when you can, how you can. This is for you. I've done my work, right? I've sought out, I've seeked my teachers, I've done my work, and I'm still doing my work, and I'm going to still doing my work until the day that it's time for me to leave this planet. And that's what I ask you guys to do. Learn what's most important for you and do your work, because this is what your soul is asking you. It's requiring you to step forward and to be who you naturally are. You came here for a reason, right? So tomorrow, we're going to do the miracle energy healing process, and then 2 people get to win gifts tomorrow. I will have a criteria to pick from, and I'll let you know what that is tomorrow, because I haven't decided yet. I want to make it easy. I want to make it fun. But I also, and I might be giving stuff away all week, because I just love to connect to people. Also, I'm going to put my calendar up in the classroom. If you have a question about the Spiritual Self-Love Immersion class that's coming up, it starts in January, but we're enrolling now. Write me. If you have a question about your soul's purpose and it's not about anything else, write me. If you want to talk about self-love, you know, when I say write me, I mean get your buddy, your little booty on the calendar and meet with me. If there are problems with the calendar and you can't find a time slot that fits you, I haven't asked my assistant to open up slots yet. I actually don't like my calendar because it's very full and I don't like to overbook. So if there's an issue, just write me either there privately on Facebook or mia@miascience.com and I will answer you. Okay. All right, guys. So we are at the top of the hour, 1 minute past. Much love to you. Come tomorrow with questions and we can go further on with that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.